Ready, set, go!
This is the Checkpoint Radio Podcast. Tune into our weekly radio show. For more information, go to checkpointradio.com. Here are your hosts, Nate Bender, Robbie Landis, Norris Howard, and Joe Sloan.
Checkpoint reached.
Hey, welcome to the Checkpoint Podcast on the Westwood One Podcast Network. Everyone's listening. Exclusive, uncensored, and extended conversations from the nationally syndicated crew of the Checkpoint Radio Show. My name's Nate Bender. I'm joined by the Checkpoint Radio crew, Robbie Landis.
What up?
Norris Howard.
What up, Dad?
And over at the Checkpoint News Desk, Joe Sloan.
Check a look.
So this week was our very first week of producing Checkpoint Daily shows. And I got to say,
I think really easy.
I think I
could say it like that.
Yeah, dude,
Don't convince anyone that we don't need to be doing this as a job.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I'm just saying we're adept.
Last night when I was streaming, I'd already been working for a long day, so I looked a little bit tired, right? And people are like, "You don't get to be tired. You play video games as a job now."
No, that's wrong.
You know what?
That is wrong. That's wrong.
And here's the thing:
produce a talk show about video games.
Yeah, it's still work, guys.
Yeah, and there's a lot of misconceptions too going around in our office about what we do all damn day.
Oh, really? That's not because we went around the first day saying we play video games upstairs. Come join us for Call of Duty.
No, we do a show about video games.
No. What Nate is saying, okay, there was an assumption that first week when we went up there where people were just like, "Oh man, I'm gonna come up to you guys' queue and just hang out for a little bit," because everybody assumed, especially the way that Nate's sort of area is created, he has extra space for all the equipment and stuff if he wants to fix anything, and people just assume that he's just gonna have a full streaming rig ready to roll like day one, and people are just gonna come up and play Soul Calibur all day.
Yeah,
that was the assumption week one.
Yeah.
They were just, no, we don't produce anything.
We need to temper those expectations,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
No, but we don't temper them. We actually show them. We provide them with some real trill-ass content.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, like every day is just like, instead of throwing together the outline on Monday and Tuesday, and if something changes, like panicking and trying to fix it before the show, now we actually take our time and, study the stories that we're talking about.
Right.
And have context.
And talk about them.
Here's what I find interesting is that, like, in terms of news, because we knocked out our news segments Monday and Tuesday.
Correct.
Not much changed until about Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
It's always that way. Well, it's either something news breaks on Wednesday.
No, you're right. Like, that's the cycle, though, and that's what would always happen is that we would do the shows, and then the next day, like, shit would change.
Well, that's like next week, right? Monday and Tuesday. I'm going to have to use a lot of the news segments that we did on Thursday and Friday this week, because they're going to be relevant news that we have to get to the national show.
Exactly. And it stands to mention that some of the conversations that you hear on Thursday and Friday may end up making next week's show.
Absolutely.
Or a show down the road even.
Or further down the line.
Yeah.
It's what I've learned from this is that news breaks every day.
Yes.
But really, news breaks on Monday and Thursday. Like, while news does come out every day, on Monday, hard-hitting expose. On Tuesday, top 15 games where the character's gay.
Pretty much.
Like, that's how it actually goes.
There is a pattern. Like it does. Like all news cycles, there is a pattern.
With the exception sometimes of esports news, because we did frequently have big news break on Wednesday morning.
That's true.
Or just before we sat down to record.
That is very true. So the Checkpoint Daily is impacting the national show. It's impacting the way that we do the podcast, and also it's impacting our sleep too. I mean, like, or at least
by that you mean we're actually doing it on a regular sleep schedule?
Yeah,
and we're not exhausted all the time.
I'm usually laying off the show around midnight. The daily show around midnight.
Yeah,
which is way better than 7 a.m. I gotta say.
I can see how you would like that more.
Oh yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I don't think that's an unreasonable thing.
So how we asked for iTunes reviews? How we've been asking for iTunes reviews?
We have asked for iTunes reviews. A lot of them.
We didn't get any.
Wow, this week we didn't get any.
How is this possible?
I tell you how it's possible. We made our goal, and now no one cares.
Yeah, exactly. They just want to see you in the Bubsy costume.
Well, the Bubsy cosplay has been purchased with the exception of the shirt you need to get this weekend, right?
Tomorrow I will be getting it. I really only need to buy two things. I'm going to buy
a white t-shirt and some red paint, effectively.
I forgot something, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
What? Balling.
Okay.
Why are we
Yeah,
balling?
Zod TV just subscribe with a tier 1 sub.
How many times do I have to tell you, do not thank subs when we're doing the podcast, man?
Oh, my bad.
Don't. It's an inappropriate time to do it on the air. It's like if we pulled over the radio show to thank people for following and subbing.
My
Like
bad.
it just wouldn't make sense.
My bad is so nice, though.
Well, it is very nice.
No, go to hell, Zod TV. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
we saw what you did to Superman. Now you're trying to monetize that on Twitch? It's not okay.
Anyway.
My apologies. I got you.
So, no iTunes reviews
Shame on you listeners.
to read this week.
I mean, we have 111. There's more than 111
I
people
can make
listening
one
to that
up
podcast.
right quick for us to read.
No.
You sure?
I'm just gonna let the Checkpoint audience live with their shame.
Wow.
Shame on you guys.
That's harsh,
right.
man.
Yeah.
Shame on
But I kind of respect it.
So
You gotta respect it. You don't have a choice.
don't disappoint me next week, and leave a review that we can read on the show.
Or else.
Or leave a review we can't read on the show.
Well, I mean, I don't know that there
It's
are
the
reviews that we
podcast.
can't read on the
Yeah,
show. Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, we can read every review on the show,
It's the podcast.
especially if we choose to. Yeah.
Well, yes, that would be a prerequisite.
Right? Yeah,
We would have to
exactly.
choose to.
So anyway, all right. So let's talk about this is a really interesting story that the Librarian of Congress has made a DMCA exemption for video games and interactive media, which is we actually talked to the maid about this a while back.
It was like a year ago.
Seeking this exemption.
I did
Right.
not think that it would have concluded so quickly.
Right. Well,
So
the thing,
kind of
here's the thing.
cleanly.
I
Here's
agree.
the thing: is that these the fair use practices for video games and single player games specifically were supposed to expire this year. Those were
Right.
actually supposed to go away this year, but instead, not only have they been renewed, actually, it's kind of increased the scope of what you're allowed to preserve. Because in addition to the video games themselves, which covers a lot of single player stuff,
Sure.
some of the accompanying software is now also being covered under fair use, which would be things like, say, running a server in World of Warcraft, the software needed to run that.
Right.
So now that we're talking about possibilities of being able to preserve and archive MMOs in their earlier states too.
And I think that that's a really interesting concept because, and obviously, WoW is seeking to monetize their vanilla servers.
Right.
They have the ability to do that, but games that crashed and burned, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
Tortanic,
they
14.1.0.
and again, what is it? It's not Hellblade. Hellgate London. Hellgate London was another one of those
I
that
forgot that game existed.
just did not do well.
Yeah.
Coming back to Steam next month, apparently.
No way.
Yes.
Interesting.
Isn't it? But I mean, there's no way to be able to preserve those digital worlds without having some kind of active server running.
The Matrix Online.
The Matrix Online.
Okay, but the whole
what
thing
a
is-
particularly
no.
shitty version
It is.
of a game.
But here's the
particularly shitty version of a game.
That's the most generous thing that I could say about it. I don't know that I would even call it an MMO. It was an MMO, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is that this does make it a lot easier for, games to be preserved. I'm pretty sure we shouldn't be rushing to preserve the Matrix Online.
No, we should.
No, certain things are best left dead.
Listen, I need to know about the adventures of Neo and Morpheus in the
Listen,
Matrix Online.
Less people make these mistakes again.
Because they're
Museums still cover World War II and the Nazis.
Yes,
listen,
they do, but I'm not gonna call the Matrix Online.
the Matrix Online was supposed to be canon. You sure you don't want to call them Nazis?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It was supposed to be canon to the series. It was actually supposed to continue on from the end of the third movie.
My whole point is that every masterpiece is not able to be saved to go be put in the Louvre, right?
Yeah,
You
Final
lose
Fantasy
stuff-
VIII.
Yes, but you lose things throughout time and throughout popular consensus. But everything doesn't need to be archived.
And Ash Saber brings up a really good point. Preserve City of Heroes.
Yes!
Again, there are a lot of really good, valid games that have just not been able to continue to be able
but
to
you
monetize.
just guys named a series of really shitty ones.
Well, but yeah, there's just as many good games that have fallen by the wayside as shitty ones.
But here's the thing: when you say like not all games like need or should be preserved, I mean, in an era with natural history, right, where you actually need physical space to put those things, I agree. But with something where you can just get a bigger hard drive, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think most things should be preserved.
So
now, is the Matrix Online hot trash? Absolutely it is. But at some point, there is going to be a game design course where you're like, hey, here's how not to tie something into your movie.
Not to mention, Norris.
No, but the way I still feel about it is regardless of server space or, the infinite amount of data that we could store, does that mean we need to store all data?
Do we need to? No, but that doesn't, just because it sucks now doesn't mean that it has worth. Think about every single movie that has ever been riffed by Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah.
Are any of those movies worth anything? No,
because that's how they were able to riff them.
That's how they're public access.
Yeah,
exactly.
Listen, no one would be happier than me
domain, yes.
to see every copy of Bubsy 3D destroyed and not preserved, and that's just gone forever.
But that episode of Loathe at First Sight
doesn't happen without Bubsy 3D.
Or not even that. Not even that. I mean, think of the story of the ET cartridges that were buried in the desert. Even someone trying to take a product that was obviously hot garbage and make it into literally hot garbage, that was the subject of its own documentary.
But my main
Here's
thing
one for you, Norris. Last one, and then I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you finish. Just give me a second here. If it wasn't for Final Fantasy 14 1.0, the story that eventually became 2.0 wouldn't exist.
But yeah, at the same time, do I ever want to go back and play 1.0? No,
That's
I don't.
fine.
No,
But
you don't have to.
but 1.0 is a special case because that was a special case in gaming. That was something that was a teachable moment.
I don't
in games.
believe that for a second, and here's why. I think if it cost you money to go back and play Final Fantasy 14 1.0, or if you never got 2.0 at the expense of keeping 1.0, but don't tell me that you wouldn't go back and wander around the world to see how the maps are different. I would do that.
No, I wouldn't.
I would. Bullshit, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
People would do it for if
the
you
maps
could just
weren't great.
If you could download it and just be able to run it and wander around, fuck yeah! I want to see how they changed Korthus. I want to go back and see. I want to see what they had. I want to see the areas that they had planned for future shit. All of the stuff that had all of those level 99 mobs that you couldn't go up and get to.
So to Norris's point, no, I have no interest in ever doing that. However, if they would create a not documentary, but retelling and like compendium of that story to be consumed and seen, that I would absolutely get
That's
in on.
okay.
I mean, dude, I would re-download the FF14 1.0 client just to go through the MSQ alone.
No, I don't want to do that.
If they made it,
MSQ was good.
I don't want to do it again.
I mean,
it was so broken though.
As soon as you got the White Raven in there, it actually got really good.
Here's a bigger question that I have, because while I advocate for preservation of many things, I also recognize that there are some things that need to go, that barely have teachable value. I don't want to say they have no teachable value, but barely have teachable value.
You're suggesting that like, again, I mentioned Bubsy 3D. That game is legendarily bad. It owns a place in popular culture because of how terrible it is. But there are games that are just bad.
Hot Wheels Turbo Racing
that are bad and mundane.
The bad and mundane and don't have a lot to offer.
So here's a bigger question that I think I was also trying to get to, is that knowing that preservation still goes through arbiters, knowing that preservation still has to go through some type of process and with people who have biases and tastes, what makes you think that this is all of a sudden, the wonderful moment where all video games get preserved and everybody will be happy?
No, well, first of all, it prevents people like the people who run like Abandonia or Abandonware. It prevents those people from being prosecuted. I think that's because those websites are important, and they archive games that I think in the full spectrum of video games are important. Legend of Kyrandia may not be anyone's favorite game, but when I was growing up, though, I loved that game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I mean,
I played all three of them.
I think about games like, Combat Cars. Combat Cars is an objectively okay game.
Right.
But growing up, I loved Combat Cars.
Sure.
I played the hell out of that game.
And I mean, I think that there is so much digital product out there that it seems like an overwhelming task to catalog it all. Especially, because I think museums specifically have a different goal at the end of the day. I think, to have an educational aspect to gaming, I think you have to show the way that continued development changes the product over time, which is a very difficult snapshot of a game to get.
No,
that's a cross-section that's a very difficult thing to achieve.
Norris, and to your point, and maybe more to the heart of the matter, I think you're probably right. Not every game needs to be preserved and archived, but every game should be able to be preserved and archived.
Okay, no. And on that, you won't get an argument from me. What the legislation does is open up for games to be archived, full stop.
Right.
Or make the process easier for the thought of games being archived.
We just saw that happen in England. They're opening up their first physical museum for video games.
Yes.
A very cool idea, something that you should be able to go and see, because if we're going to sit here and advocate that video games are art, I think all of us believe that they are.
That's right.
Then like any art museum, there should be a place where you can appreciate them in their form.
Absolutely. And at some point, I don't think it's unreasonable to think, that movie Ready Player One, that an archive of digital content is perfectly displayable, playable, and in perfect keeping with the spirit of that original idea, to place that inside that library, right? Inside of a virtual environment where people can just dial up whatever game they want.
So here's what I ask, is that if that happens, and let's say that this place doesn't become a physical place, let's say it's not at a building, because eventually we'll have the capability to take all of these and host them somewhere on a cloud, and you can visit in VR, or we'll be able to shed our mortal shells. Yeah, or it'll be streamed to your whatever personal device that you have. That's not that far-fetched to think of.
To your
right?
ocular implant.
Whatever. But the whole point to me is, and this is going to make me sound, I guess, old and archaic, but to me that sounds like the death of nostalgia. That sounds like the death of being able to miss something.
Is it the renaissance of nostalgia, or is it the death? Or is it the death of it?
I don't know. That's interesting, because the notion of having everything at your fingertips at all times. Why would you live in the past?
Right.
Like I think that's such an interesting concept.
A major facet of nostalgia is the rose-colored glasses.
Sure.
Is being able to look back.
Is being able to forget.
Is forgetting everything that was wrong with it.
That's right. Yeah.
So you might not be wrong with having it at your fingertips. Would you, in essence, lose the appreciation for it?
I mean, because think about it. We've all talked about, since we've started the new gig. We all talked about, like, man, I think I might, and two of you have, like, I think I'm going to put 11 on my computer, on my workstation.
Yeah,
right?
It's terrible.
Here's the thing. We all wax very poetically about 11. We love 11. We hold that game so near
For
and dear.
those that don't know what we're talking about, Final Fantasy 11, the MMO.
We hold that near and dear to our hearts. But if there was no 14 and 11 was still 11,
not a one of us would play it.
We wouldn't be playing that game.
But I still appreciate what it was at the time I did play it. I know that at the time, it was still hot garbage, right? Like knowing what I know now, that is an objectively bad game. But at the time, I still had fun with it.
But that's knowing what you know now. And I think by having the availability to go and play and experience everything that, came before 14, right, or whatever marker that we're using, I think it does become harder to sort of miss something.
If you saw the Mona Lisa every day, how quickly would you lose your appreciation for what that painting is?
Exactly. People travel to Paris and they fall in love with the city. Oh my God, it's Paris and I love it, but Paris has 2 million people living in it who probably don't like Paris that much.
But then you also do. How long have you been living in Detroit? You still love Detroit?
I do.
That's
and when
fair.
I leave, I miss it because if I could just VR experience Detroit while I was in Paris,
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Why would you?
So,
but, I mean, you're right. When we went out to the esports arena, in the front lobby area, you walk past that, and on your way into the arena, they have this circular room, and it's got all video game systems of yesteryear hooked up. And when we walked past, one of them was an N64, and it had the original Smash Brothers going on there.
Yeah.
And I immediately had to run over and pick up the controller and start playing a little bit. And yeah, I immediately was like, this has not aged well. This does not look so good anymore.
Right.
And there's the difference between nostalgia when you're experiencing and nostalgia when you're.
So now when you think of when you used to play it before, suddenly that memory isn't fun to you anymore?
No, it definitely, because again,
I know if I were to go back,
are such a they became a social thing in our era. It's not playing Smash Brothers that I remember. It's playing Smash Brothers with my
people.
friends.
But on top of that, it's also context, right? You understand why you felt a certain way in the 8th grade because 8th grade felt like, bam, that's what 8th grade felt like. It's not that, when you think about it as an adult that, you look back and you go, oh man, greatest time ever. But you also realize in your adult years that you probably did and said and experienced some pretty fucked up stuff or did fucked up stuff. So I feel like having the ability to feel that way about the things that you consume, about the art that you consume is okay. I feel like if it's preserved in memoriam in a VR experience where you, the person, can access it at any time, I think we would lose a little bit of ourselves in that process.
How quickly does it become your Steam library?
Yeah.
Where it just collects dust.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get what you're saying, and it could be a person-by-person basis, but I don't see that happening to myself. I recently, about a month or so ago, went back and tried to replay Star Ocean: The Second Story, which was one of the first, really massive, JRPG, 92 different ending type games back on the PS1.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't really get that far into it, but that didn't do anything to tarnish the memory or the feelings that I have of the game.
But that's you going back to play it once. And I understand there are certain games that people have.
Hey, well, why would you, even if you could tap into it at any point, if you went back the first time, this isn't what I remembered, why would you keep trying to go back to it until it's completely destroyed?
Because it's there.
But we're talking about archiving code. We're talking about archiving programming code that doesn't take much effort, right? It takes a lot of effort to be able to preserve a painting to make sure that it doesn't deteriorate to time.
Well, yeah, it's a physical
It takes Control-C, Control-V, done.
Yeah. But again,
it takes moving file A to fucking folder B, and you're done.
But again, I'm not talking about the effects.
I don't know what you're talking about. We're talking about nostalgia.
Yes, because I think this doesn't have as big of an effect on what actually needs to be done as much as it has an effect on us, the consumers.
We lose something.
What we're talking about is a professional curating ones and zeros instead of having to curate a physical product. And I don't understand why anyone would sit there and bristle at the notion of it being somebody's job to be a digital archivist.
I'm not bristling at that. You weren't listening.
No, I was listening. I was trying to follow the fucking...
I wasn't bristling at the notion of video games being archived. I bristle at the notion because I know how far we're going to take it. And it's going to get to a point where we archive everything, and everything is not worth being archived. And it's going to get to a point where people aren't going to give a shit about the context in which these games were created, so you're just gonna have people playing the same bullshit over and over again.
Nate, to your point, I think you used the right word when you said curator.
Yeah,
it's someone's job to decide what is worth archiving.
Here's a great example. In 1979, when the punk bullshit was happening all over the UK and here in New York, when people looked at the artwork and the music that was coming out of it, they went, "That's bullshit," because it's just
garbage.
It's people are taking magazines and cutting them up and recontextualizing them, repasting them. That's not real artwork. And fast forward to this year, when I go to Cranbrook to see an entire exhibition of punk artwork, okay? there is time and context that goes along with curation. And I do think that the fact that digital items are easier to curate, store, archive, and catalog, that, yeah, you can archive and catalog more. And you should. The archivist or the curator should. It should be as comprehensive as possible so that anyone who walks into that library, anyone who walks into that museum goes, my favorite game ever was Flappy Bird. And it doesn't matter. That may
somebody's.
to the four of us, that may be the dumbest sentence ever uttered.
Right.
But to some person, to one person out there, that is their favorite fucking video game. And all they want from a video game museum is to walk in and play their favorite video game.
Yeah.
That is the purpose of a video game museum.
No, it is. And I'm saying if you have somebody who's a curator, there's either one of two things. There's a high chance that Flappy Bird ain't in that motherfucker, so they're going to be mad. Or we archive Flappy Bird and every fucking Flappy Bird copy that ever existed.
Why not?
That's stupid.
Why not?
That's stupid.
It takes up 2 kilobytes of information.
I don't give a
Who
shit.
cares?
Dude, but you talk about selection anxiety all the fucking time. That's the thing I'm talking about.
Doesn't matter.
Why the fuck have that many options when it's not necessary?
Because the person walking, because everyone's taste is different. That's why. If you want a comprehensive collection of something to exist in a museum, you want anyone and everyone to be able to walk in off the street and be able to connect with it. That means you need to have the widest possible array of games, in front of you.
Well, and I mean, I agree kind of, Norris, what you're getting at there, because I also think back to the
by the way, hang on, who's the fucking arbiter of who decides what gets archived and what doesn't? Who gets to decide?
You're talking about a curator?
Who gets to decide?
You brought up curators.
But who gets? But you're the one who's saying, nah, that doesn't meet the fucking minimum bar.
Yeah.
That doesn't meet my taste bar. It gets thrown out. In that instance, you're the fucking curator.
Sure.
Okay,
but, I mean,
so who's the arbiter and why? Why shouldn't that matter?
Yeah, it should, which is why we have people in school for this.
Right.
So do you think because somebody comes up and says Flappy Bird is my favorite game, you should have it?
Yeah.
I think it's
if you're the video game museum, fuck yes.
No, I think that's ridiculous.
Why?
Well, it's ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
Because I think there's no actual point to having 8 million copies of a Flappy Bird when one copy of what Flappy Bird was will do. That will explain all the shit that was after it. Now, if somebody came up and said...
Wait, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? 8 million copies versus one copy. What does that mean?
I'm being superlative.
No. I don't understand what you're trying to say there. That doesn't make sense.
What I'm saying is, why would we have Flappy Bird and then 10,000 Flappy Bird knockoffs?
Flappy Octopus and all the other clone games that came out at the same time.
All the clone games that came after them, when you could have Flappy Bird, and that explains every gameplay mechanic that was in all those other knockoffs. Why would we still have those? Why would we have Flappy Octopus when Flappy Bird will do?
Right, so only Super Mario Brothers the original, nothing that came after it.
Because it takes that much effort. That's why.
That's ridiculous to me.
It takes no effort.
I don't care how much effort it takes. It's ridiculous in its selection anxiety, and it's archiving just to archive, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's archiving the archive.
It's preservation.
Yeah,
it's preservation for preservation's sake.
Hold on, you're talking about there being selection anxiety. You're going to the museum for a specific purpose. You don't wake up and they throwing this archive at you. Pick something to play.
But
you think it won't get there?
I mean, how many times
you think it wouldn't get there?
How many times do you go to a music library and look for something that they don't have, and you walk away disappointed?
Yeah, I'll find it somewhere else.
But
how many music libraries are there out there?
There's Tidal, there's Spotify.
No, I've never heard of it. Oh well, I've heard of that.
Whatever. I was talking about brick and mortar, but whatever.
Oh, okay, my bad. No.
No. I mean, like, how many fucking record stores can you name?
2. That's it. I mean, I think through the. Do you remember in the 90s when we had that huge trend of like 60,000 games in one system?
Yeah.
When we got those, and what you got was 10,000 copies of the same game where they would change one line of code.
Sure.
But the game was exactly the same otherwise.
Yeah.
That's more so what I'm talking about.
That's what I would worry about.
And you were pissed off because you bought it. Right? You paid money for it.
More accurately, my 70-year-old grandmother bought it.
Fine.
Sure.
But let's say one of those, what was it? Fucking Cheetah Men. Remember? Do you remember
On
that?
Action 52. Yeah.
Yes, Cheetah Men. Let's say that's your favorite, or you just want to be able to load it up because of the cultural significance of the fact that Cheetah Men 2 didn't actually exist anywhere.
Right.
Or people thought it didn't.
Right.
You know, whatever it is. The rarity of something is also to be factored
No,
in
that's
there.
true, and I don't disagree with that. I'm not disagreeing
Which is what
with the
drove
idea.
Flappy Bird, by the way, because the minute that it got taken off the fucking store was the minute.
You can't get Flappy Bird.
Exactly.
No,
Right,
so
right.
I'm not disagreeing with the notion of preservation in and of itself. But as Joe said, there are plenty of games that literally there's a change of one line of code to not get, knocked down by a copyright infringement, which you might steal anyway, or a lawsuit. Why would we preserve that? Why would we, outside of a special exhibit of, here is our exhibit of knockoff games, right? Where we specifically talk about that as an idea.
Because if you want to do that exhibit, you have to have the archived material to draw off
So do we take every single solitary one of those, or do we give some examples?
No, you take. Listen, if you're in charge of being the arbiter of all of this stuff, you have to keep the archive. You have to have all of the needless bullshit that people think are needless, so that you can put it into the proper context to show them, hey, here's the context of knockoff games.
And
that's the importance of having the breadth and depth of a library like that.
And this is all dependent on somebody who takes up the benevolent cause to curate it and put it all together and do it, or collection of people.
There have been several, including the Maid, including the Video Game Museum out in Rochester, New York, and the one down in Texas.
And I hope it stays that way. But I know there's a capitalist benefit for this. There's a money-making benefit to doing this.
There can't be.
Yes, there can.
Not specifically, not for the DMCA thing.
Oh, there can't?
No, you can't make money off this shit.
Yeah.
How?
No, the DMCA. Listen,
this is
the
fair use.
Fair use. So you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
So if it goes into fair use, if this is now considered public domain. Because
if it's public domain, it's whatever the fuck.
It has to be designated as such first. Then I think you should keep a very strict archive of that shit.
I think the rule is your organization has to remain nonprofit. I think that's how that has to work. Yeah, because you can charge like an admission fee to see a museum or something like that,
but you couldn't charge for somebody to take it home with them.
Right.
That would have to work. Now, you talked about the how to put this, the benevolence of someone who had to take this on themselves. We got to meet such a person.
We did.
In maybe the coolest interview we've ever gotten to do.
Was it not like meeting the old sage on the mountain?
While we were out at UCI, they asked if we wanted to talk to one of their professors there who lectures on video games. And
that's Dr. Darren A. Denenberg.
And he basically at one point donated a collection of his video gaming stuff to UCI and was kind enough to let us go in and check it out.
Yeah. So let's check out that interview with Darren A. Denenberg of UC Irvine.
Hey, welcome back to Checkpoint. We are live. Not live. Hey, welcome back to Checkpoint. We are on the campus of UC Irvine. We've actually made the walk over from the esports arena to one of the buildings here, and we are now here with Darren, who is a lecturer here at UCI, and he has shown us into the Cave of Wonders. We are in a room that I did not realize existed anywhere on this planet, and I'm so happy that it does. Darren, welcome to Checkpoint.
Thank you.
So, Darren, I'm going to let you actually paint the picture of this magical room that we are standing in.
So this is I guess you would say a lifetime collection of mine that I have spent probably about 40 years putting together. Some of these are like, if you look back at these Atari cartridges, those are ones I've had since I was just a little kid. And there's so much here, it just sat in boxes really in my garage. And when I discovered that they had a game science program here, when I came on as faculty here at UCI and discovered they had a game science program, I thought that this would be a better place for them, where they could be used, where they could be appreciated, where they could be used for research. And so I asked them if they were interested in taking possession of it, and of course they were very excited. And we drove it all up here in a U-Haul, and this is where it is now.
We are going to talk extensively about that, but a couple things that need to have attention drawn to them. First of all, you have what we can only assume is a working Atari Jaguar CD. Now, last I checked, they made about 7 of those, and maybe one of them works. So, congratulations on owning probably the only one.
Thank you, and I actually got that brand new. So it's
You opened that out of a box and it worked?
Yes, that's right.
That is incredible. Okay, moving on. Over a little bit to the right, we have a Panasonic 3DO, a system that someone at some point decided was okay to sell for $700. They were wrong because they went out of business, but if you could tell us a little bit about the 3DO.
So the 3DO I don't actually have a lot of experience with. That was a pickup from I believe actually a thrift store, just sitting in the back. I think they had it in with all the VCRs, assuming it was one of those. But I can't imagine somebody paying $700 for it, bringing it home, and then getting the experience they had. I mean, at least the Neo Geo gave you something that was worth experiencing. But the little bit I've had, I think there was perhaps a haunted house game on it that I played, but the second I was done, I had forgotten about it completely.
Well, you're correct. Almost no one did experience that
Right.
because it was $700.
Right.
And just below it, there's a TurboGrafx 16,
Yes.
which is a system that maybe, like outside of this room, 4 people have heard of.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit about the TurboGrafx 16?
Yeah, the TurboGrafx 16 was NEC's attempt to get into the video game console business. It was very lucrative at that time. And it actually had a lot of good titles for it. There was no way that it would be able to compete, of course, against the powerhouse consoles of that time. But it had Bonk, for example. It had Devil's Crush, the pinball simulation, if you remember that one. So it was actually a good console. It used the game cartridges were just little credit card sized things, which allowed it to be used. Around here somewhere is the Turbo Express, the handheld version of that, which actually took the very same cards. It was the same console, and so it was a pretty powerful, a pretty good console at the time. It just didn't it wasn't able to carve out its own niche.
And there's a lot of systems in here that are sharing that fate. I mean, Virtual Boy is a very bad console that wasn't able to carve out its own niche.
Right.
But I mean,
I like to say it was ahead of its time. That's all.
Yeah, sure. So over here we have a Sega Genesis, and I mean a full-on Sega Genesis.
Yes.
We got the 32X plugged into the top. We've got the Sega CD coming out of the side. Now, along with the Dreamcast, this was really the end of the Sega Genesis era.
Yes.
And we were talking a little bit before this interview started. The 32X was the first hint that maybe all was not well in the world of Sega. Taking us back to about the mid-90s now. Can you talk a little bit about the end of Sega and what happened there?
Well, Sega unfortunately made missteps before they tried to recorrect, and I think they corrected in a pretty good way. They had the Saturn, which I don't think was the greatest console ever made, but after that they came out with the Dreamcast, which was really a superior console. And if for people familiar with that time, I believe that the majority of them would tell you that the Dreamcast was really a superior console. The experiences that it offered, the technology it had, it was actually far ahead of its time. Something we were talking about earlier. And the sad thing is, the 32X, I mean, no sane management would approve the release of the 32X. But they did. It was really a sign that something was bad. Even now, it's still talked about pretty poorly. And so damage was done, unfortunately. If they'd have moved from that to the Dreamcast, maybe things would have been different. But it was the Saturn that came after, and then the Dreamcast, by the time it came around, it was just too late. People had moved on.
And it's worth noting, too, that they actually had the Neptune in development, which was just going to be a standalone 32X Genesis.
That's right, yeah. And I don't know what happened with that, but I assume they learned their lesson from the 32X and wanted to put it as far behind them as they could.
All right, so thank you for allowing me to geek out over just some of the really cool stuff in here.
No, it's great.
So, I want to talk about the importance of preservation, right? The need for places like this to keep track of gaming history, because a lot of this doesn't exist in a way that could ever be picked up and held again.
Right.
There might be a ROM online that you could emulate, but the value, I mean, you have a binder right there just of manuals,
Yes.
and we have all these are in boxes that are in near pristine condition.
Right.
Just talk about the
PT.
value of being able to pick this up and get hands-on and see what it was like when it was released.
So one of the reasons that I was able to make this donation, I don't know if I should say this while I'm being recorded, but I run a bunch of emulators myself. And the fact is, it's not the same playing, for example, Sonic the Hedgehog with an Xbox One controller. It's too strange of an experience. And I don't think, I'm a completionist and I'm a traditionalist, and I believe if you want to know what the experience was really like, you have to feel the contour of the controller, the limitations of the controls that you have. you have to be able to see what it was like to, as opposed to a joystick, for instance, and what that kind of control was like. And so we even have TVs over here that when you plug them in, you even see what the visual experience is like. So it needs to be the sound, it needs to be the visuals, it needs to be the controls. All of it comes together. You simply don't get that from running an emulator on a PC. And one of the reasons that I made this donation is because I wanted it to ultimately be a room, and it seems like we're getting to that point, where people who had never experienced this before would be able to come in and see what it was really like, to actually sit in front of the TV, hold the controller, and experience the game.
It's worth noting too. Just recently, we've had Square Enix come out and say that they can't release a modern, upscaled version of Final Fantasy VIII because they don't have the original data files anymore. Those are gone. This is one of the same companies that has also gone out and said that they don't want to, have museums keeping archived records of their games. It's kind of a catch-22 there. It's kind of the importance of preservation, right?
It absolutely is, and that's especially true now. By the way, being a historian myself, I completely disagree that we should not have museums that have this. I mean, we should have museums for everything. We have museums for film, we have museums for art, we have museums for all kinds of artistic endeavors, and I don't think this is any different. And that's especially true nowadays as things are being sold and distributed digitally. Then how do you archive those for when those games are considered to be like these games? And how do you do that? So I'm very supportive. For example, the Internet Archive has a lot of these things available online, and I think it's something that really needs to be preserved. But like we said earlier, preserving them digitally isn't enough. We need to preserve them in terms of their actual physical state. The box, the manual. Sometimes they came with other little things, maps or what have you. All of that is an important part of the history. Should be preserved.
As time moves on, kids today, most of their games now come through their mobile device or
Yes.
Or through Steam on their computer. Games are becoming more cross-platform, and we're losing kind of that uniqueness, that a Sega Genesis game had versus a Super Nintendo game, or how much, or that weird controller we all had to learn to deal with when the Nintendo 64 came out.
Right.
Are we, in this quest for engineering perfection, are we actually kind of losing something artistically?
I think we're definitely losing something artistically, and we're seeing that now as the business itself has changed in order to be more profit-driven as opposed to more game experience-driven. And I think that's unfortunate. Control schemes, experiences are all becoming homogenized, and I think people look back on these things fondly. They talk about how great, for example, the N64 controller was. That's the general consensus right now. But for better or for worse, we don't have that anymore. And I think it's true. But and speaking of the Genesis versus the Super Nintendo, for example, platform wars happened back then, just like they tend to do now. And so we still see some of that. So I guess it's nice in a way that we still have that. But at the same time, we are definitely losing the experience of simply sitting in front of the TV, holding the controller, and having the particular experience that that game provides.
And one more question, I want to draw attention to the three arcade cabinets that we actually have back here. I see Joust and Bank Panic.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about these, and are really another kind of era of video gaming, even before the console era of the 90s.
Yes.
A little bit about these particular titles and the special place that they hold.
Okay. So at my age, I actually remember going to the mall when it still had carpet, and they had an arcade, and just seeing Asteroids. They're a really basic arcade machine, but it was completely enthralling, and we'd go there and spend all the money that we were supposed to use for something else on that machine. And as time went on, I actually became intrigued by the machines that weren't the standard ones. Everybody's seen Pac-Man, everybody's seen Atari, everybody's seen Space Invaders, and those are great machines. I'm not denying any of that. But I always took an interest in the machines that tried to do something different, that were unique in their own way. And these are just three of them that I had. Like you said, this is Joust 2, so even slightly different from Joust in its way. Unfortunately, that's non-operational right now, but we're working on it. And then Satan's Hollow and Bank Panic, one of my favorite arcade machines, really tried something different. They tried to forge their own unique identity at a time when even in arcade machines you were seeing a lot of clones or machines that simply built on what a previous machine had done. These were very unique, and so I sought those out, and that's one of the reasons I brought those here.
Darren, keeper of the Cave of Wonders at UCI.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Darren.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Actually, before we wrap, I actually had a couple of questions to get in here as well.
Okay.
So, Darren, as an educator and as a lecturer, what do you believe the value is in having a generation that didn't grow up with this kind of media be able to interact with it in the organic way that you were talking about?
I think it gives them a real appreciation for this. We spent a lot of time in one of my game development classes talking about the history of games. As a matter of fact, there's an assignment where they are required to play the old 2600 game Adventure. And the responses to that are pretty remarkable, frankly. They can't figure out what's going on, but as they step through it, they start to see even some gameplay elements we still have today that were present all the way back then. And Adventure, of course, was a very important game. It was the first Easter egg, first inventory, first multi-room game, first Fog of War. It had a lot of firsts there. And so, for these I don't want to say kids, but for these students who want to go on and be game developers, I think it's important to have an appreciation of where you've been to understand where you are and where you're going. Just like, if you're a musician or a recording artist, then you should know about the Beatles and about disco and about Motown and about all of those things. And it's the same thing here. You need to have an appreciation of how we got to this point in order to appreciate where you are and where you're going.
And one last question. What do you think your favorite piece in this entire collection is?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm not sure I could answer that. My favorite game is Sonic the Hedgehog, but I have other pieces here that were given to me by family members. I had one piece that I found at a thrift store that didn't have a price on it, and when I asked for the price, the person who worked there said, "I personally will sell this to you. You meet me out behind the building." And it was like a drug deal. I gave him the money and he gave me the thing. And so there's a lot of things in here that have stories, that have memories attached to them, that have personal value to me. And so, depending on which piece it is, I think I could choose anyone based on its provenance.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I mean, I do love talk. Like, I have weird random facts about old video game stuff that I don't know why I've hung on to.
And I feel, knowing you specifically, like, everyone else would be taking you through the tour, like, talking all excitedly about it, and you'd be like, now look at this hot piece of garbage. Mr. Sloan, what have we told you about using that language? Oh, it's
sorry, hot trash.
It doesn't even work.
Yeah, that would be probably me. I see. That's why I couldn't be like in a museum, because like you're supposed to like talk about like the value that everything brings. I'd be like, wow, I cannot believe they let us keep this in here. Can we get FEMA in here? Good Lord. 2 Virtual Boys. That's against the Geneva Conventions.
I think there were 3 actually.
There was 3 Virtual Boys.
I would not be surprised if the Virtual Boy was used as a torture device at some point.
Wow.
Yeah, it was called the 90s. For about a year.
Let's take a look at ahead to our esports weekend.
All right. So first up, we have the group stages for the WCS Finals in StarCraft. Those are getting underway today. We'll continue on throughout the weekend. 16 players remain.
Who's your pick for it?
Oh my God!
All right. Who's your favorite, and then who's actually going to win?
Okay, so like Haas is absolutely my favorite. I don't even think he'll be the best of the non-Korean players. Like the Korean players, like you got Maru and everyone, they're really good. He'll probably go all the way. But then Haas is my hope. I want him to win.
Both of them will lose because
at this point now, yeah, the Sloan curse.
Yeah, I mean, well, Haas is going to lose to Cyril if they ever meet again, so we'll see. In addition, the Fortnite Fall Skirmish series is wrapping up this weekend at TwitchCon. So good luck to our new favorite squad from Team Liquid. The Canada Cup, Norris, I don't know if you're going to be watching a little bit of Canada Cup this week. I know you're going to be busy with Red Dead, but
catch the VODs.
Even Street Fighter 5 isn't going to pull you away from Red Dead.
Catch the VODs, man. Red Dead. It's a Red Dead weekend.
Okay. Meanwhile, CSGO, we've got Epicenter wrapping up this week. By the way, It is a busy weekend in esports. There's a little bit of everything going on this weekend.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
You think this weekend's busy? Wait till next weekend.
True that.
That's fair. This weekend's also going to play host to the Broadcaster Royale Omen Challenge in PUBG.
I actually want to watch this.
It's been a minute since I've had a good PUBG competition to watch.
And the thing is I think it's been since since that Berlin event.
Is that the last time you actually watched?
That was the last time I watched competitive PUBG.
I think it is too.
The one with the
Yeah.
half full arena.
Yeah. That was so depressing too.
Well, hopefully this will be better.
I hope so.
Just don't show the crowd, guys.
Yeah, I'm curious who's taking part in this, because it's always fun to get the casters involved.
Broadcaster
but,
Royale is good stuff.
Oh
man.
yeah, I have to wonder if our good friend Matrim is going to be in there.
I hope so. Yeah, I don't know if he's playing or not.
Yeah, I don't know
Hopefully
either.
Pansy's
but,
playing.
Yeah, fingers
Who's
crossed.
casting?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a better question. Who's casting?
Yeah,
this
who do they
event?
get to cast the caster match?
Players? That's what Overwatch did.
That's what Overwatch
be
did.
cool.
Well, when
Worked out pretty
Overwatch
well
did
for
that,
them.
it worked really well.
Maybe they'll get
because
player
it was
unknown to do
really funny.
Oh God, Overwatch is the best, dude. In addition, we have 4 a.m. tonight. We have G2 Esports squaring off against Invictus at Worlds. Rookie versus Perks.
Oh, that's right.
Tonight, man, it gets underway. G2 trying to eliminate China from Worlds, and that would leave it with only European and North American teams left. And the following night, Sunday at 4 a.m. Eastern Time,
event.
the main event, Cloud9 versus Fnatic.
This is the one to watch, guys.
So
This is the one to watch.
Man.
if I was a betting man,
Another victory for America.
Don't say it.
No,
Don't say.
if
Don't
I was
say
a betting
no,
man,
Don't say anything.
you don't want anything. You
Nothing.
don't want the pick even.
Nothing.
I think that's,
I think I want the pick.
He's gonna ruin it though.
I would pick Fnatic against Invictus in the finals. That would be my
Really?
That would be my pick if I had to make one.
Fanatics return to the mountaintop.
Fnatic is getting back to finals for the first time. Like believe me, Cloud9 is who I want to win. But if I had to put some like $100, I got to put it on someone. Yeah, it's going on Fnatic.
I mean, Fnatic's a tight squad.
They're a great squad. They got a lot of good players. They are former world champions. Like, yeah,
Joe,
okay.
you
Yes.
want to make this interesting? Cloud9 beats Fnatic.
Okay.
Let's see. You like May, don't you? I'll buy you a May Nendoroid, the little figure for your desk.
If Cloud9 beats Fnatic, you're gonna buy me
Oh,
something.
sorry. No, if Fnatic beats Cloud9, I'll buy you one.
A Diva one. It would be Diva.
I don't know if they've made a Diva.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, they have. They do have a Diva
They have.
Nendoroid.
Okay.
All right, fair.
A Diva Nendoroid versus.
And then if Cloud9 wins, you got to buy me one. Probably Junkrat.
Junkrat? Is there one out for Junkrat?
I believe there is.
All right, I'll tell you what. You're on. And we'll shake on it. And here's
Shake on
why.
it.
I win either way now. Either Cloud9 advances to the finals of World, or I get a Diva Nendoroid to make me feel better. I'm happy with this.
you go.
Absolutely.
That bet was a little weak. I thought it was going somewhere way stupider.
Yeah, me too.
I've already had to do the Bubsy cosplay. What is there to do beyond that right now?
Diva cosplay.
I'm pretty sure
I
I
would
can come up
happily
with
do a
some
Diva
dumb
cosplay.
things for you to do.
When we went out shopping, I was like looking through the Overwatch costumes. I'm like, I'm gonna wear one of these. I'm gonna get that Mercy cosplay going on.
Are the pre-made costumes for Overwatch any? Are they decent?
I'm gonna give credit to that Spirit Halloween, man.
bad.
All of the Overwatch,
Really?
all the video game stuff was decent.
man. Yeah.
Like a lot of like, they had a-
What other and now I'm curious because I haven't stepped into a Halloween USA since my last shift at one, which was
They had Pit Boys.
Yeah, they had a Pip-Boy from Fallout.
Shut
that's
the fuck
cool.
up.
They had a
really?
They sure did.
They had a
Yeah.
lot of Kingdom Hearts stuff. They had like Keyblades that weren't awful.
Yeah, they and
That's
no
interesting.
They had varying Keyblades, not just like the normal one.
OG
They had the
one.
Oblivion
the,
one.
the Boogie Bomb, the Groovy Grenade, whatever it was from Fortnite. Tons of Fortnite stuff.
Yeah.
Was it all branded like?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
like
it's branded Fortnite
like
stuff.
It was
Fortnite sold
Fortnite
the
branded.
IP.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's smart.
I was
It-
I was shocked at how like decent quality a lot of it was. I mean, it's not cosplay level,
of the,
but
well, obviously,
Like,
but
I
of the
actually-
Overwatch characters, who was there?
they had Mercy, Soldier, Reaper.
and Diva. Yep. Now the
Reaper,
only,
actually, that's pretty cool.
and
Reaper
actually,
looked cool, yeah.
I was close to getting the Reaper mask because it actually looked really cool and was like pretty nice quality. The only thing that I'll say is that the weapons were like huge, like they were way
like
bigger
comically huge.
Yes,
Have you
yes.
Have you
Especially
seen how
considering
big Reaper's guns are? Though? Those are humongous.
dude. The two of them together is like the size of my torso.
That's about right.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And
dude.
but then you put them in like because I probably assume that the targeted demographic is
That's
children.
the thing. It's like for you, they would have been about right. On a child, no, not quite.
I don't know that children are necessarily the target
Why
audience.
would they
for that.
give
You
the
might be
phone
right.
shotguns to children?
I bet on there is an age thing, and it would be
It
a lot
says, like,
younger
6 to 30.
than
6 to
what is
30.
actual.
six specifically to 34, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Interestingly, when you do the Mercy cosplay, it's either a Mercy cosplay or a Slutty Mercy cosplay, depending on how old you are. So it's all the same costume.
that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
But yeah,
is
Joe
what
was
it
pretty
is.
close to buying the Bunny Blaster.
I almost did buy the
You
Bunny
should've bought the
Blaster.
Bunny
Dude,
Blaster.
Why didn't you?
I might go back and buy the Bunny Blaster.
How much was it?
I mean, they weren't cheap. Like, they were...
I actually don't think we looked at the price. The Bubsy cosplay overall cost me $51.
Yeah, like, I think, like,
I was
I
like,
think
y'all
they were
was
like
balling out of control. That's
they were
what
like
you do when you got
$26
money.
or something like that. Like 25 to 60.
Nah,
Yeah,
that's what you do when
That's
you
not
got
bad,
money.
though.
We didn't even look at the price, dog. We was just buying what we got. We need it. Whatever.
Man.
Yeah, I don't look
It's-
at price tags no more.
It's
Shit.
nice. I was actually thinking earlier, and I don't remember what someone said to prompt it, but you know, I used to say when people are like, oh, if I won the lottery, if I had this money, I'd be like, you guys all being like, oh, I wish I could win the lottery, blah 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 blah. I'm hoping I step off a curb and like get hit by the Pepsi truck so that I can sue Pepsi for like just like a cool 30.
Well,
like
I got news for you. You got a way
$30,000.
better chance of that happening. Than
You
the
actually have a
lottery.
much
Right.
better chance.
But
of
I was
that
just
happening.
thinking here, I'm like, wow, I don't want that to happen anymore. Like, I'm good now.
I don't need a
I'm
frivolous
fine.
lawsuit.
Yeah.
I'd still take one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have icing on the cake.
I mean,
Ain't that
if
a
it would
new
hurt,
man?
it
hurt
would
for a little
hurt.
bit.
It would hurt for a minute.
You're right. It would hurt.
Yeah.
It's fronting like 13 pins in your spine. Ain't gonna hurt a little bit.
Right. All right. Well, that's going to be it for the Checkpoint Radio podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today for the podcast. CheckpointRadio.com is where you can find out more info on the show, as well as full episodes on demand posted every Tuesday, interviews from past episodes, and much, much more. That's all over at CheckpointRadio.com. Stay up to date on all the latest by following us on social media. That's CheckPT Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you like the show, consider dropping by our Apple Podcast feed and giving us a rating and a review. Seriously, we didn't get any of this last week, so it
Shame on
would
you
really
guys.
help our egos if you could do that. Checkpoint Radio is a production of Westwood One. Our theme is provided by the band Weird At Last. Big thanks to our producers Rick Scott, Kevin. What? Oh, that's not updated. Big thanks to our producers Rick Scott and Christine Corpus. For the Checkpoint Radio crew, Robbie Landis, Norris Howard, and Joe Sloan, I'm Nate Bender. Keep listening.